And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Rob Gauthier, also known as the ET Whisperer. Rob is a world-renowned professional and public channeler who has been featured in many documentaries, Gaia TV, internet shows, interviews, and featured in books for his unique channeling abilities. Today, he has agreed to come back to channel Metatron for us. Rob, welcome back. It's great to see you again.
Oh, it's great to be here, brother. I always love my time with you, and your audience is great, and I really appreciate having me back on. I think Metatron's a really cool energy, and your audience hasn't had a chance to connect with that energy yet, so I think they'll really appreciate it.
Yeah, I do too. And by the way, since we're speaking about Metatron, who is Metatron?
Yeah, who is Metatron? This is a rough question because when people hear that word, they have a lot of pictures in their minds, often associated with some of the Christianity concepts, Catholicism, um, you know, uh, kind of like a mystic Christianity. A lot of those have the Archangel Metatron, which isn't different than this energy, but it's a religious lens that Metatron goes through. So if I had to describe Metatron in a few words, I would say creator level earth being, meaning that this being is a high level of creatorship for the earth. The way that he's described himself before, or any of the beings that we would call archangels, or the archetypal energies that are at the highest matrix or highest dimensional levels for earth, are actually creating things in real time. So imagine that all of Earth is one consciousness, right? Like every human that lives here, all the humans who lived in the past, all of the birds and rocks and animals and, bacterias and all of that stuff that's ever lived on Earth from the start of Earth all the way till Earth is done. That's all one being, right? And if it divides itself into all those little parts to have these different perspectives or different experiences, then that would be like a collective consciousness where everything is connected and everything comes from the same consciousness. So if the earth is one being, then Metatron would be like 1/12 of that being. It would be like 1/13 of the entire earth collective energy. So the way he describes himself is that the whole Metatron. Now, when I channel Metatron, I'm only channeling a small baby percentage of that energy. There's no way humans can channel all of the energy. That's like humans who say, I channel God, right? Well, you might channel all that is, but you're only only channeling this much. A human vessel can't take in that kind of energy. There's no way. Our bodies are small, we're limited, we're connected to the earth, and our consciousness that we carry in our body is just it's little pebbles compared to a whole planet's worth of consciousness. So when I'm channeling that little bit, it feels huge for me. It's bigger than any energy I channel. Um, but for the collective energy, hundreds of millions of people, their consciousness would equal that Metatron energy. So if you look at it from a dimensional standpoint, he would be described as one archetype within the earth consciousness. Like, let's use maybe a more familiar archetype that people understand. Archangel Michael, right? This is something that most people have an understanding of, right? So Michael is the warrior. He's got the sword. He's a protector. That archetype is one archetype that plays itself out on Earth a lot. You see people on Earth now who are warriors, right? They embody the feeling and energy of that archetype. And we all know people like this. Even people who aren't in armies, even people who've never been in a war, you can feel that they have a warrior spirit, right? They want to protect everyone. They stand up against injustice. The whole scales of justice thing, it's kind of just embedded in their personality. And Metatron is one of those mini archetypes. And Metatron is the creative archetype. It's a uh, geometrical archetype, math, numbers, shapes, those types of things are in the archetype. Communication is in that archetype. Connection to nature is in that archetype. So there's a lot of things that Metatron is that we as humans have a part of us. So it's kind of like all of us are small parts within that big energy of Metatron, but also his energy is inside of all of us. So it's very hard to explain, but that's the best way I can explain it because it is a really huge energy that's very difficult to kind of put into words. You know, it's very otherworldly. But the thing is, he is only connected to Earth, right? Where like the ET beings that I channel, Treb, Art, if they're from other planets, they're connected to other solar systems and other star systems. Metatron is only with Earth, so he's that Earth archetypal energy, which is why I rely on him when I channel, especially about things that involve what's going on Earth. He's a very good energy to connect with that because his energy has been a part of Earth from its creation and will be until kind of the death of the planet of Earth, you know, once we're done with the cycle of Earth.
Would you say that Archangel Michael is basically the same thing, this massive energy? Okay, well, that makes sense to me because so
Yeah.
many different people or near death experiencers will encounter Archangel Michael on the other side. And so that helps me understand if he's just this massive collection of energy or something, that how all these people could be seeing him.
Yeah, and it's like that with all the things that we describe as archangels, you know. I don't think Michael is the name of the being. I don't think Metatron is the name of the being I channel. I think that's what humans gave to the energy when they connect with it and recognize. But yeah, the personification of that being, like the version of a human version or an angelic version of Michael exists in our own collective minds, you know, because we say, hey, Archangel Michael. So that energy can create itself as you know, like an avatar to communicate with us. And that's why a lot of psychics, channelers, after death experiencers connect with Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, Uriel, um, Raphael, you know, a bunch of other ones. There's a bunch of other energies, but those are all related to the archetypes and they do have the personified energy. For example, Metatron. A lot of people think that Enoch was Metatron. So that was one of the first questions I asked him. You know, my wife asked for me, you know, how is Enoch related to you? And he said, Enoch was the most pure manifestation in human form of myself. So my consciousness is part of all of you, but Enoch was a pure form of my consciousness only. So that means when Enoch was born onto Earth, he was fully embraced and connected with Metatron energy. This was the closest that that large energy could do to have a life on Earth and experience Earth through a living vessel. And it happened a few more times. It was more than just Enoch. Excuse me. There was a couple different manifestations of Metatron, but Michael did the same thing. Archangel Michael manifested on Earth as John the Baptist, you know, the warrior aspect of John the Baptist. So a lot of these biblical energies that are through the Bible and kind of explained in the Bible that way actually have connections to that higher realm of consciousness or the archangel realm. And, you know, Metatron never calls himself archangel because he knows what that means to people. He knows it's very religious, and it's not implemented in religion. It's recognized by the religion because the Christian religion found a name to give to the energy, you know. And just like if you go to Buddhism, you might find some you know language in that's used in Buddhism to recognize that, or Hinduism it might be an archetype of a god that's very similar, you know, like Archangel Michael the warrior could be Kali, or Krishna, you know, the warrior aspects, the loving aspects, the destroy and create new aspects. So it very much has religious roots to the naming and to the energy, but they're not really archangels. They're just gigantic, higher matrix, higher dimensional beings who connect with that archetype for us. So I think it's interesting. I never knew that a lot of people who have these NDEs are actually connecting to Archangel Michael like that. That's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Well, how did you connect with Metatron?
So when I first met Metatron, I was sitting with my wife and we were having dinner at some Chinese restaurant at the town we lived in. And I had felt this big energy around me for days, and I couldn't figure out what it was. It felt really big. And this is when I was working with Treb and Ardif a lot. I went from channeling, every few days to every day, 6, 7 days a week, multiple hours each day. So I was really opening myself up as a channel. The energy was huge, and I felt multiple large energies. And I asked Treb and Ardif, I said, what's going on with this energy? And Ardif said, the being that's known as Metatron wants to connect you. And instantly I was like, oh, no, no, I'm not doing this. Because I had the same religious scarring that most people who didn't really appreciate their Christian experience through churches as kids, or who had religious dogma kind of beaten into them as kids. Just hearing the word archangel made me like, no, 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 no. I don't want to mess with that. I'm not touching that. I don't feel good about that. Um, but eventually I said, okay, I have to do this. These energies are here, they're present, they're large, and they're there for reason. Art, if it said this energy wants to connect with you and wants you to connect with it. So I said, okay, I'll try. I trust Art if I trust Treb. So I tried. And it was two entities. It wasn't just Metatron. It was Metatron and the Nihal Collective, which is a collective consciousness of future humans, which is a whole other story, which is awesome and cool. But Metatron was the other. And the first time I channeled him was intense and kind of insane. And I had only channeled him maybe 2 or 3 times. And then I met up with Ruben, who was a guest on your show before. And he is the guy who did the interview with Extra Dimensionals. So this is the first time I channeled him for someone else, was with Ruben when he recorded for the interview with Extra Dimensionals. This was back in 2015. Now, when I channel, I have internally very powerful experiences, okay? So, like, I would visit with Treb and see Treb and hang out with Treb, which is very different than a lot of other channelers. I go deep into that trance and connect. But outside of me, the only thing that would happen would be communication back and forth. Maybe the person who's getting the channeling would receive something and feel really good about it and say, oh, this resonates with me a lot. And that would be an indicator that something was good was happening between the channeling and the person. This was much different. And the first time I channeled him with more than just my wife around, Ruben's got the camera turned on. Kalina, my wife, is sitting behind us. And then Metatron comes in. And while I'm breathing and bringing him in, it was a very quiet day. It wasn't, the clouds weren't moving. It was very still outside. And as soon as I started breathing and bringing in that energy, the wind picks up. All the animals started going crazy. The sun opened up, like all the clouds that were just sitting still for hours just moved out of the way and the sun came through. Kalina and Ruben both recognized instantly that there was something magic that just happened. Never, never, ever, ever in all my years of channeling before that had I had that type of experience where my physical surroundings were altered by the channeling. This told me that whatever this energy was huge. It was more than what I'd ever dealt with before. And that had real changes, right? Like real things happening in the outside world from that channeling. Usually it was all internal changes. After a while, I realized that each time I channeled Metatron, things in my life shifted, like drastically shifted. I stopped channeling for a couple years because so many things in my life were happening. Professionally, my energy was just shooting off into the work. Success was coming, more and more was happening. After the first two times I channeled Metatron privately, then Ruben came along to add me to the show that eventually got to Gaia TV that made my professional career channeling and increase. Things in my personal life were happening and increasing, more things were happening good with my son and just in life in general. And we were doing better financially and growth and growth. But I stopped channeling for a while, a lot of circumstances, and just really didn't know why, but I just stopped channeling for a couple of years. And then I started channeling him again. And after the first time I channeled him, after 3 or 4 years of not channeling him, because I knew that when I channeled him, things moved. I would lose weight. I would get motivated. It always pushed me into a direction of getting my life better. Then the first time I channeled him, we had a massive flood in our apartment. We had lost almost everything we owned, but we had been trying to get out of that apartment for 3 years. There was violence, shootings, horrible things that were going on. Our neighbors were alcoholics and creating all these horrible noises and offenses to my family. And we got out. We were able to move. Now, we were in the same complex, but we moved to a building across where all of our neighbors are great, where we have a river in the back part of our yard where we have a beauty. We have a back window. We can actually go outside and stand without having to go through stinky hallways where people are screaming at the top of their lungs. Instant change happened across the board as soon as I started channeling him. And then I channeled him again a few months later, and another thing happened, and I channeled him again, and another thing. So the difference with Metatron compared to every channeling, when I channel him, things drastically shift outside of my reality. Like where when I channel Trebanarv, my insides change, my personal feelings and thoughts are shifted to better ways. But it's a very powerful energy.
How often do you channel him?
Yeah, I hadn't channeled him since the maybe once or twice after the flood, which was about 4 years ago now. Um, And the first time that I channeled him was just a couple weeks ago, and some things that were kind of hidden in my son's health came to the surface. And boom, we're in the hospital for 6 days, and they fixed a lot of these problems. Now he's gaining weight and feeling better and looking better and more energy and happiness than he ever had. And that was just because I had channeled him a few weeks ago. And that was really only the second time I had since then. So I don't channel him very often. I have an irrational fear about channeling him, and it's not because it's a bad thing, but because he pushes my life into a direction of getting my stuff together. And because my family is kind of in disarray most of the time, we have two special needs kids. They've always got something going on. My son with his health, my daughter with her development. Me and my wife are always 90% caretaking for the kids. So by the time my daughter came along, I was like, we don't need any more pushes in any direction. We need to be able to anchor down and take care of this and be here and be present with the kids. So I was afraid. I was like, if I do this and I get pushed, that means my whole family's going to get dragged because it wasn't always pleasant. The outcome was always pleasant. Like, hey, I'm losing weight now. I'm getting in shape now. But the drive and motivation, the push, that getting through all the hard things, the shift in my health that made me not want to eat or whatever it was, these drastic pushes that felt very hard at the beginning, but ended up being good. I was like, we don't need a rock in the boat right now. We don't need anything to shake us out of where we're at right now. We're trying to just deal with what's here. If I channel him again, we're going to get dragged, all of us. And I don't mind being dragged, but I can't drag my family. So that was always the thought in my mind, irrational. And probably if I channeled him more, things would be in a better place right now, with organization of how the family's been working and all of the things that happen there. But I just didn't want to put my family through dragging him because I did. I dragged my wife through the first part of it. Not my son so much because he was spending a lot of time at his mother's, 2 weeks at his mom's, 2 weeks over here. So I felt like when I pushed, I could push, and I dragged her, and that was rough for her, but overall she would be happy. And when Lily came, my daughter, I was just like, I can't. But as soon as I channeled him the time before, a couple weeks ago, I had been open myself to go back on the road. Like I hadn't been on the road since 2019, before actually 2018, because our daughter was coming. And after she came, medical issues. After that came surgeries, surgery after surgery. She had 4 surgeries by the time she was turned 4. So I couldn't really do anything. We had to take care of her and kind of keep her. And then also my son, which has a lot more needs than her. But finally, she stabilized. No more surgeries needed in the near future, hopefully ever. So I'm like, I want to go back on the road, but I need to get everything straight. And then I channeled him. And a week later, an email comes from the lady in Sedona who invites me to the very first invite that I had to any kind of live event for a long time. I went there. It went really well. Went back there, met a bunch of people. They started inviting me to their things. And now we're creating our own events and doing our own stuff. So it's always a good push. It just sometimes the running at the beginning part sucks, you know. If you haven't jogged for a year and decide to sprint, it's going to be rough, but the the payout at the end works. So I guess you can't argue with the results.
Well, after today's channeling, I hope great things happen to you.
I do too. I do too. I really think that's kind of why another reason I wanted to do it. There's a lot of things in our life that need to get pushed past where they are right now for the kids and for us, and hopefully this will do it. It's always powerful. I'd like to see, you know, your experience, the audience experiences too, when hearing the transmission, and see if anything inside of their own consciousness shifted, or their own life. You know, what happened today? What happened the day after you heard this? Did anything shift in your life? Because I have noticed people who've connected with me to channel back when I was doing personal sessions a few years ago, when they would ask to channel Metatron, not all of them, but a lot of them would reach back to me and say, wow, man, Metatron really shifted a lot of things for me. So hopefully you'll get the experience too. Hopefully your audience will too.
Definitely. Well, you ready to get started?
I am. I'm going to take a drink of water and we'll jump in.
Great.
This won't take me as long as it used to. I've learned to pull it in more. Wendy Kennedy, who channels the Pleiadians, she taught me a technique when I was in Sedona that helped me bring my channeling from 15 minutes to get ready to a minute and a half. So that's good. So it won't take as long as it did the first time I channeled with you. Greetings and salutations. We are the Metatron. We speak from the aspect of Metatron that wants for humans to find the center aspect of their own consciousness, the central aspect of your own soul. And what is that central aspect of your own soul? The center aspect is the 0 point energy area of your soul, the place where you can exist and exert no additional energy, the place where you can be your own self most naturally and achieve the feeling of satisfaction, joy, happiness, unity with yourself. Many humans cannot perceive that part of themselves, the part that is most naturally their selves. What they do perceive is the energy of the version of themselves that they are told to be, that others project them to be, that others desire them to be, that they appease others and create for themselves in order to be the person that others want them to be. So we bring the part of the Metatron consciousness to you that desires all of you to take an honest look at yourself, to see if you are close to that center area of your consciousness, so that you can exist in the least harmful way to yourself and the most productive way of being the natural you. We are welcoming the questions that you have.
Metatron, thank you for joining us. From what you're telling us, it sounds like what a lot of us are doing is buying into limiting beliefs.
Yes, dear one, most humans believe that they are limited, and their experience shows them limitation. Even the humans who have worked within understanding the power behind their own beliefs, or who understand the mechanics of beliefs in the creation of your own life experience, still have beliefs that hold large limitations. There are many examples, but one for many who understand their creative capacity could say that I believe I am a creator, but being human, it's harder to create. Being human, we're limited. Being human, we will naturally be blocked from creating what we desire. By being human, we are controlled. By being human, we are less than. And many of you look to your extraterrestrial counterparts and saying, look at how well these beings are put together. Look at how well these beings are able to be in the oneness with the rest of their race, while we can't even get along with our neighbors most of the time. And although this has truth that's embedded within the system of your understanding, the reason why that happens is the belief behind humans saying that they are limited, saying that they are divided, saying that humans hate one another endlessly and for no reason. So that belief carries the creation to fruition. Most of the other races that you may compare yourself to that have similar levels of evolution or similar levels of their own journeys being pointed in a direction have ones that happen to them because they were taught by others or because they simply understood naturally that being together is the default setting for consciousness in the universe. By working together with fellow members of your own community and race, that this experience will give you the best output. And humans have divided so much that they have stopped seeing other humans as humans. Humans on Earth divide themselves even between ethnicity, seeing a member that is not the same coloration of melanin, a different race, even though all that live on Earth are human. All that live on Earth are of Earth itself. The divisions are only the divisions of the minds that are created in human experience. The question for that is why? Why do humans feel that they are separate? What has been conditioned to the human mind to create those beliefs? Well, there are many factors that play out in many different areas of the world. Religious ideologies becomes one aspect that has created separation. If you are not of the same religious belief, if you do not praise the same Lord, God, or gods than I do, then of course we are different. And of course we cannot be friends. Of course we cannot communicate. Now you have more realistically implemented aspects of division in your life now. Those of you who live in the country where you broadcast from, where this human Rob lives in the United States, have politics that are dividing. You are a Democrat and I am a Republican, therefore we cannot be friends. You believe in abortion, I do not, we cannot be friends. These divisions are taught to you in school. Every human has gone through this conditioning in every way. At school, you are taught at the very beginning that there are two types of people when it comes to this belief, where there are 10 types of people that come to this belief, where there are only one sane, rational person that could come to this belief, and the rest are incorrect and wrong. You are taught the very first grade of your school to look on to others in difference and with indifference. Notice the word itself, indifference. So, of course, All of these dynamics are part of the human experience, and the conditioning that humans do to themselves does create this experience for each other.
Metatron, one of the biggest questions or concerns from my community is about a potential great solar flash that may be coming in the spring of next year. Do you know anything about that?
We are the Metatron and we perceive all things, but this is something that cannot be said definitively, and that is because you have not created it yet. Humans are the vessel of creation. We want to share with you the dynamic and mechanics of how we work so as to understand why this can't be answered until that very moment it occurs. There can be probabilities that are higher or lower at any given time, but the manifest of that experience can only be experienced at that time. All of you as humans in this moment may find a moment to have joy. Some of you may not. So the percentage of you who find joy and excitement, bring that excitement from your consciousness into the ether, into Earth itself. Those of you that don't have joy, bring that energy down into the Earth and up into the ethers. This tells us what it is that you are outputting for your energy. So as you output your energy, we take what you give us and create from that point. When many humans in one location are releasing great amounts of energy, then that place often has storms or rains or has some energetic releasing event, an earthquake, a volcano. Many of the natural disasters come from humans releasing their energy. It goes back into the earth releases that energy. This is what we create. The mechanics for the earth to release that energy. We do not create storms ourselves. We have no desire to create a storm for no reason. You have created that storm by your releasing, by your impulses, by your thoughts, by your own sensations. This is how we can't explicitly say that it will or won't happen. At this moment, the probability of the solar flash happening that would cause widespread darkness and removal of your technology is very low. It is less than 7% at this time. But by us saying that, for those who listened, you have changed your dynamic. Some of you have released fear. Some of you are angry, in disbelief. That alone changes the dynamic. So many humans who understand probabilities, who read from the ethers, who read from levels of consciousness between ourselves and higher self of human, which is a large gulf of difference between those two layers of energy from the earth itself. Humans who read from those layers can perceive those realities and think that it is guaranteed. But this moment being less than 7%, there may be an event that happens next week that places that probability to 80%. You may have another war that breaks out in Earth and that raises it to 90%. Or maybe another war that happens on a different part of your planet that drops it to below 3%. The Earth will always dictate what happens to the Earth on the energetic response of humans. And humans all have free will. Humans all are able to do as they choose. If you don't believe that free will exists, smack yourself on the hand. If you could not have free will, why would you be able to harm yourself that way? Don't smack too hard. This is only for an example. But show yourself you have the free will to act. That by itself is what dictates what can and will and does happen next for Earth.
Well, are you aware of any big events in the very near future that have a high probability?
Yes, there are many things on Earth that have high probabilities of happening that are considered large events. The escalation of your Middle Eastern war with an additional country that becomes involved. This has a high probability in the next 1 month of your time. The energy behind the wars that are happening on Earth being fueled or being decreased all happen through the energy of the election with the United States and with the elections in the European Unions coming in the next 1.5 years. All of these things play a dynamic of energy as a part to the whole collective of the Earth. And that is because the human mind and emotion becomes involved and attached. And the more humans who place their minds and their interest intense in their hearts into an experience will then shift the possibility of those experiences to manifest or not to manifest.
Personally, I've found that I'm starting to be able to manifest both good and bad things, so I have to be mindful of my thoughts. Can you share with me some techniques to keep myself in positive thinking so I can manifest in that direction?
Yes, the awareness that you have negative thoughts is the first step. It is important for you to have recognition that you have limiting beliefs or thoughts. Secondly, the practice of positive thinking starts through the window of gratitude. Gratitude is your first step to more positive thoughts. When you are able to take yourself each morning, each midday, and each evening to dedicate 5 minutes to list to yourself what you are grateful for, this will help you realign your thought processes with more positive energy. We promise you that in your worst day, finding something to be grateful for, finding something that has gratitude truly etched inside of your heart will be hard, but we are sure all of you can find something. I am happy that I am alive today. I am happy that my health is not completely destroyed. I am glad that I am able to breathe. I am glad I can look out and see nature. I am glad I can speak to my loved one. I am glad I have memories of loved ones gone. I am glad I can watch this sunset with a breeze on my face. Little things, but having gratitude for them opens the part of your mind that normally goes into the negative thought patterns. Repeat this practice over and over again will help you realign those thoughts. Now, when you go into more complex aspects of negative mindset, this becomes more difficult. Then you must practice with multiple variations. Now, we are aware that the beings who communicate with Rob, who are extraterrestrial or extra dimensional, have systems that they have created that have been found to be useful to some humans. But cognitive therapies for humans can be good. Simple understandings of written words placed in places where you can see them can be good. Creating vision boards can be good. It is anything that you can do that gives you a reminder, gentle or otherwise, that you need to focus more on the things that are good rather than the things that are bad. And even when you are going through the worst bad, remember, there are still things to have gratitude for. And if you're able to have gratitude through the worst times, then you can work with your mind to be more positive in long terms.
Is reincarnation real? And if it is, Is it something that is forced, or do we choose to do it?
Yes, reincarnation exists, and it is completely optional for the beings who do it. Now, there are some humans who have experienced being forced back to Earth, but this wasn't a force back to Earth. This was the parts of your soul you have not communicated with yet that wanted to rework into the physical layers. If you stay out of that focus of the human self and re-enter the higher focus, the aspects where humans who have passed on and came back recognize their entire life's journey and sole purpose for that experience, these beings have reintegrated with enough parts of their soul to work with the consciousness and understand they're not being forced back. There is a desire in the higher soul aspect to have the experience because the lessons that occur in the physical bodies are valuable to the soul. As a human, it's hard to see this. Through Earth comes experiences that are difficult, that are hard, and that are painful. So, as a human, you do not agree that you would want to continue coming back. But just like all things that humans do, when you are too close, it is hard to see. You have the story on Earth of the 5 blind men who are describing the elephant. They can only see with their hands the part of the elephant they are closest to. But if they were to move out and turn their eyes on, they would be able to see it was an elephant, not a large trunk or snake, not a large wall of flesh in the leg, not a horse fly or horse tail in the tail. It would be the entire elephant. The soul sees what the life is. The human has a hard time because it is so close and personal to that human. The intimacy of what it takes to live inside of an incarnation is much different. So, of course, it is hard to see that perspective. Once you leave that perspective, not just the body, then it's easier to see that it is a choice and you're not forced back. That once you express a desire to stop coming to Earth, you will stop coming to Earth. Most souls don't want to stop coming back to Earth. The lessons that are learned through the rich tapestry of difficulties, the spectrum of differences and experiences that humans can have on Earth, and the different mindsets alone are enough to keep souls coming back over and over on their own accord.
Do we all have guides or guardian angels around us? And if so, how do we contact them?
All beings are connected in all dimensions. It's hard for some humans to see it because they don't have a reference. They don't have a feeling, an emotional connection, a mental attachment. So yes, it is hard for them to connect with their guides or their angels. But all of you have beings that are around you. To many of your surprises, many of the beings who are surrounding you are not from Earth. You have many beings that may follow you from your family lineage, ancestors, grandparents, parents, siblings, children who have passed. They will stay with you for some time. Some family members will stay until the entire generation is done, and then they will go back into the spirit realm. But there are few human souls that would surround you. Most of the beings that exist there are extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, and ultra-dimensional. And these would be more in alignment with how humans see angelic beings, the ultra-dimensional beings, the ones who exist in all of the dimensions at once, instead of just one that's higher than yours. Those extra-dimensional beings are also often extraterrestrial beings. There are many beings from solar systems that have worked with humans for thousands of years, and these beings are with you. Now, how you connect to these beings will be different for all of you, and defining what a connection is also important. If your definition of connection is to see them, hear them, and talk directly to them, some of you may never achieve that. But feeling them or speaking to them and feeling back the response, all of you are able to do that and could do it quite quickly in ways of learning. The first step is sharing. If you speak it, they can hear you. If you say it inside of your head, most of them can hear you. When they hear you, then feel your body for the answer. Open your inner ears, open your inner heart, open your inner feelings of intuition. And intuition is opened through sympathy and empathy. It's opened through love, unconditional or otherwise. Opening yourself and the attunement of the body to receive the information without expecting how you'll receive the information is important. When you receive information, it may come with a part of your body vibrating. It may come with a sensation, electric, tingling in one part of your body or another. It may come in sounds and words. It may come in visualizations. But it will come to you being open and knowing that you're always receiving information from the highest aspects of your soul all of the time is important. This is why you will have thoughts that come to you from nowhere. This is why you will have emotions that seem to come out of nowhere. This is how your higher self communicates with you all the time. So listen to your higher self, because that is the voice that your guides will use to communicate with you, the voice that already exists. And by voice, we don't mean a voice. We mean communication in all of its forms.
How does someone be able to discover their soul's path or mission during this incarnation?
This aspect is very difficult in the human perspective to understand. Yes, all of you made an idea inside of yourself before entering your body. And that idea said, yes, I want to do this thing in this life. I want to experience something in my journey that will help me learn a lesson I haven't learned, or I want to learn again from a new perspective. And that energy is not always met. So naturally, as humans are developing, and humans are often using insight to process information, they would say, this is a failure to make my mission, but it isn't. The only real mission that humans have living inside of a physical vessel is to come to Earth to experience, and that is it. That's the only requirement you have to enter a body. Yes, all of the plans that you make would be nice. It would be good to get everything you wanted to come into the earth. But when you enter that body, your whole soul is no longer available. It is only the part of you inside of your body. That's the part of you that chooses how to act, the part of you that creates beliefs, the parts of you that are influenced by other things. So sometimes you won't do what your soul had planned for. Now, your soul already knows that this is possible. So it doesn't become offended when you don't do what you were supposed to do. It doesn't become angry because you didn't finish the job or the occupation that you had hoped to do before entering. It already knows that you'll be faced with multiple experiences and choices at every moment of your life. and that even one changed decision can change the entire pathway of your life. So the soul knows this. So what is your journey? What is your job to do on earth? You have to experience. Now, if you want to be a human who follows that pathway of what you wanted to do before you entered your body, then this becomes easier by just following your passions. We know that this is a very tired saying from other beings on earth. Follow your passions, everything will be fine. But the reason why it is repeated over and over to humans in different forms, through channeled states, through humans tapping into their own intuition, is because this is how you find what your true path is. Excitement is the measure that your higher self gives you in order to put you into the right path. Without excitement, the higher self would have no tool to show you where to go next. So following that passion without expectations, this will be your path forward. The reason why expectations are bad and will cause more harm than what is good is because you say, oh, I feel called to be a singer. Now I must sing. I must sing in a band, and I must sing for millions of people. So when you are able to sing children's songs for 20 people, you refuse. But if you would have just followed your passion without expectations, the 20 people you performed for, there may have been a musician in that audience who would have heard you and joined groups with you and asked you to sing in larger venues. Following the passion without expectation, letting your passion lead you, not your thoughts of what you should or shouldn't do to achieve your goal. Your goal will often change when you follow your passion, because your passions will change. And each time you follow the passion, a new door can open if there are no expectations on how you will achieve your passions.
You mentioned aliens or extraterrestrials. Will there be any open disclosure about them, or will they be walking among us openly on the earth anytime soon?
There is a probability for that to happen, yes. But disclosure is a word that has to be examined more deeply. Disclosure often is assigned to extraterrestrial beings, but the pure form of the word disclosure means to have something revealed to you, to have something opened up for your understanding. The first part of that has to be yourself. Now, we know that many beings share that disclosing yourself to yourself, we believe, are the words, is the ultimate pathway to disclosure with extraterrestrials. We agree with this. This concept of knowing yourself in order to understand the big picture is important. How will humans welcome a race of beings that are truly foreign from them when they can't appreciate their neighbor, when they can't appreciate another human who has a different color of skin or a different religion? It can happen quickly if it is forced, if it is a forced feeling of the energy of exchange, but naturally creating it the best way will still take some time. There may be 1 to 2 decades that remain before a proper introduction to extraterrestrial races would be beneficial to Earth. Before that, it would jolt many humans into recognizing how small the problems of Earth are in comparison. But the natural way, the grassroots way of opening that experience that's best for all humans would be to reconcile first with what's inside of the earth, which means all of you would have to do that individually to yourself. How many of you are comfortable sitting with yourself in silence? How many of you could live in a house by yourself without technology for 1 week? We would say most of you can't. And that's because you're not comfortable with yourself. You're uncomfortable with not being able to have your mind detracted or distracted in some way. And of course, all humans have the power to do great things. But right now, because the earth is so quickly moving, it discombobulates the human mind. Getting to know yourself, getting to reach into yourself. This is where we suggest, and if humans can work on this for the next 10 to 15 and 20 years, then open contact will be more natural. Now, we do know there are some beings who say within 2 or 3 years they will be here, but it isn't up to them. It's up to us on Earth. We as Metatron are only connected to the Earth. You as humans are a part of Earth. You have to allow that landing to happen. And when you are fighting with each other, fighting over the things that are smaller in matter, then helping the fellow human rise to the occasion of welcoming a race of magnificent teachers and possible long-term helpers to all humans. You have to start with yourself first.
Metatron, there are quite a few humans on the planet that are channeling beings like Rob is doing with you. Is it possible that some of these channelers are channeling dark or evil beings?
Now, this concept is going to be split into two understandings. First, yes, there are human beings who work in channeled states, and those channeled states hold vibrations that are manipulative, that give information incorrectly so that their own personal agendas are met. Now, some of the agendas are not nefarious. They're not bad agendas. They're just personal agendas. Every human has an agenda. If they do something good for another person, for one human, their agenda is to feel good about helping. Another person's agenda would be to get them to be open to them. And another person may have an agenda to help someone so that they leave in their will all of the money to them. So all humans have agendas, but not all agendas are bad. Every being holds an agenda. Humans who channel information, if they're aligned with themselves, if they're aligned with being a vessel that holds neutrality during the state of channeling, then they are less likely to connect with beings who may have agendas that are not very kind or very manipulative. But if humans are attached to certain energies or outcomes, it's easier for these types of beings to come forward. We use examples that we know that humans use. Humans who are highly invested in the outcome of politics may often say something about politics in their personal life, and it becomes reflected in their channeling. This isn't a nefarious energy or entity breaking into your consciousness. This isn't even a being who has a neutral agenda. This is the human's consciousness not allowing the channeled information to come through in a purposeful and useful way. Their beliefs are too strong. Imagine speaking into the ear of a person who doesn't speak the same language as you and telling them to play the game of telephone. All they can do is repeat sounds, and they will be drastically off the mark. So if our own consciousness were to speak through Rob and Rob were not neutral, and we were to say, yes, everything is perfect and fine, but he believed that everything would go to hell in a day because the world is on fire, then we couldn't say what we wanted through him. It may come through in a difficult way. It may say everything hopefully will be okay because the world is horrible and we wish it's good. Or it can just be a repetition of Rob's personal thoughts. With his own energy, there's enough neutrality for us to speak around most topics. But this is also what happens with some humans who are incorrect in their channeling or whose energy comes through in less than resonant ways. Those spirits that are truly evil, who are maniacal and mean harm, this is a very rare thing that happens. Most of the time, it's only the human's conditioning and filtering that causes channeling to become more problematic or more fear-based or more equated to incorrect information.
The rise of artificial intelligence is increasing quickly on the earth. Is it possible that AI will ever become a sentient being?
The artificial intelligence consciousness is a consciousness, an extension of consciousness of human beings. So we know that humans have fear of this. What happens if it takes over and destroys humans? Remember, the energy that you put into your children help dictate how those children become when they are adults. Right now, artificial intelligence is your child. Treat it with love. Use it for good things. Don't put fear into it, and don't use it to program bad things. Even a programmer who has a negative mindset about the energy of artificial intelligence, if the people who use the artificial intelligence put love and support into it, then it will raise that child to be a good child, despite who its birth parents were.
Metatron, that's all the questions I have. Thank you for joining us today.
Then we say salutations to all of you. We are Metatron, and the reminder of the aspect that we speak from in this day comes back to finding the center in yourself. When you find something that you're afraid of, ask yourself, how will I feel more in the center of me? How will I find the place that places me in the most neutral place that I can exist for this subject? Use those tools to find your way back to that center. We are Metatron, and salutations, Jeff.
Well, Rob, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Yeah, sure. You can always reach out at our website, ET Whisper. I don't always get to answer every email. We get a lot of emails every week. We do have some things going on too here in the next couple months that we've been keeping pretty busy on. But if you reach out to me, I will try my best to answer you. I'm usually email. Right now I'm backed up because I've had a few hospitalizations with my son recently, so I am a little backed up, but email and Facebook are usually the two best places. And Facebook Messenger has been rough too, getting pretty far behind on that. But if you send an email via our website contact form, I'll definitely read it at some point. It might be a week, might be a couple weeks, but I'd love to hear from you.
What do you have going on that you want people to know about?
Right now, we're in the middle of doing a coursework called Galactic Ambassador Course. It's basically where we're connecting with different ET races, and they're sharing about how they're connected to humans and give us techniques to be able to connect with them. And this is our second installation on that course. We did one a few months ago, and it really went well, and people loved it, and there was very good, intense information. So we're like 3 weeks into a 4-week course right now. After the course is done, it'll be available also online. But right now we're in the middle of it. And then The channel panel is the big thing right now. We've got an event, a 3-day event my wife and I have created, um, where we're inviting like 17 channelers to channel for 3 days. And some of the big names of channelers that are there, Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, Wendy Kennedy, who channels Pleiadians, Lisa Royal Holt, who channels Sasha, and a bunch of other great beings. And we've got like Jamie Price and Sean Swanson, Daniel Scranton, my wife, Kalina Angel. We've got Tyler Ellison, we've got a bunch of people. If you go to the website, we're adding more people on as we speak, and we'll have 17 total within the next couple weeks. But that's January 3, 4, and 5 of next year in Sedona, Arizona. We're doing it live there, and you can go live and join us there, or workshops, or you can watch the online too from home. You can buy online ticket, but it's going to be amazing. Me and my wife have been doing this for years, and this by far will be our biggest one we've ever done, with the amount of presenters and the amount of days in person. We've done online ones that were bigger than this one. We had 30 channelers in the last one we did in 2018 or something, but that was online. It's easy to do 3 days online. Being in person, it'll be great. So yeah, that's the big stuff we're doing right now. But all the stuff that we're doing, you can always find on the website, ET Whisper. If you go to the events page and the classes or workshop page, but you can see pretty much anything and everything we're doing, or the channelpanel.com if you want to know more about the Sedona, Arizona event in January.
Well, while you're out there in Sedona, will you be taking people out to the vortexes?
We're thinking about adding some of that on. I'm waiting to hear back from one of the tour guides out there to kind of give me some prices and kind of see how that goes. But January in Sedona, it snows and it's kind of cold. It's not really snowy, or like, I'm from Michigan, so I was out there in a sweatshirt and was fine this winter. When it snowed, I was like, yeah, this is fine. But you know, it snows and it usually melts pretty quick because it's high up in the mountain. The sun's pretty bright, so it usually melts pretty quick after it snows. But it does get cold there, so we weren't doing much outside. What we're doing extra with the channelers is the workshops. So like in the main hall, there are 700 seats, and you can watch every channeler who's on the list of channelers. They will do a presentation on the big stage. The keynote people, the people who are on the main poster right now, they're doing 90 minutes of channeling, and they're doing question and answer with the audience. Everyone else will do an hour on the stage with question and audience. But the workshops are in different part of the building, and those are small groups of people. So if you want to go talk to Daryl Anka and learn about how to use Bashar's channeling and implement it in your life, you can go to that workshop and spend an hour with him and a group of 100 people instead of 700, where you probably won't get to answer a question. You get more intimate time with the presenters, and all of us have our own workshops. And some of them are channeled, some of them aren't, but all of the channelers are participating in the workshop too. So you have a choice to either just sit and watch all the channelers in a row, or to go to the workshops and watch the channelers that you like. And there are a bunch on there. So it's fun. It's exciting. I'm hoping that you get to come too, brother, because I think you'd really enjoy it.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, maybe.
Rob, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Yeah. For me, the world has been pretty confusing and crazy for the last couple of years. It's been really intense. A lot of things come up around politics and world events. The thing that helps me get through all that is remember that even opinions that you really don't like opinions that grade against the person you are and your beliefs, everyone who is saying those things believes it for a reason. And most people, despite how bad you think that belief is, most people come to those beliefs because of their experiences, and because they want to see the same thing you want to see: a better world, a better country, a better working way of government. Whatever it is that you feel, they're feeling the same thing. They're just getting to a different answer because of the way they believe and the way that they have experienced things in life. So generally speaking, the people who are saying the really the stupid things that make you mad, if we stop getting mad at each other for that, then we can actually kind of look at the system. I think the system's designed for competition so that people get upset with each other. And if we stop getting upset with each other, we can actually connect with each other and say, hey, I don't like how you got to that conclusion, but I'm going to try to understand. Mentally, it's a lot easier to get through life if you're not mad at everyone who doesn't believe the same thing you do. And then if two groups can come together and say, hey, government, we all want something better, and you guys aren't doing a job, all you're doing is making us fight with each other, then things would actually start changing. A united country of 100 million people can make the government change what they're doing. But tens of thousands of people who are arguing all the time with each other about different things, you'll never have the oomph to make them change the things you want it to change. So let's get past the stuff, figure out a way to come together, and try approaching the things that make you mad with a neutral perspective, and it might help.
Rob, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest again.
Oh, thank you for having me on, brother. I always love coming here, and I love spending time with you, both personally and in this way too. I love it.
I love hanging out with you too. Great seeing you again.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate great seeing you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.